Welcome to Career Invincibility, everybody. I am so excited about this show. It's taken me months to get this guest, and we are going to come together into a state of flow, and he's going to explain what that means. But first, let me tell you about Chris M. King. He trains clients to get into flow, which is really about making the impossible and even the unimaginable a reality. For small and middle market companies and professionals, it's an incredible experience to be with Chris in a room when he's speaking, and I'm sure that he's going to be able to help us understand what flow is and how it's going to change our lives and give us some tools to be able to do that. And imagine achieving the difficult, the impossible, and even the unimaginable at a time when everyone else expects you to fail. That's what he calls Pique, Pique, performance. And here in this show, we talk about invincibility and what gets us through these, what I call category 5 times, into resilience and beyond that invincibility. And I think Chris is going to be the one to tell us all about that. So without further ado, Chris M. King, welcome to our show.
Thank you so much for having me, Christine. It's so good to be with you, and thank you for your patience with my schedule. I appreciate that.
It's worth it.
Thank you. I think so.
Yeah, absolutely. So happy to have you with us today. So one of the things that I like to do is start out by talking, because, you're a successful entrepreneur. You've been, working with people for years. You're doing all this so beautifully. And I know, like everyone else, it wasn't a straight line to get here. And I think that's the piece I'd love to start out with you a bit about your background and your journey to getting to where you are today, which is the top of the mountain, so to speak, in constant flow.
Well, thank you. Yeah, no good story ever read. They started, it went well, then they succeeded, the end, right? It just doesn't. I haven't seen that movie yet. I don't know anybody that would read that book or watch that film. So, it's been an interesting ride. I'm your classic entrepreneur in that I resisted that for a long time. I worked for other people and enjoyed it most of the time until one day I didn't anymore, and I sort of fell into what I think was my sort of natural place, way, and state of being in terms of entrepreneurship. And when I was in grammar school, the teachers always said that I was disruptive. That was very consistent, and I couldn't agree with them more. So having the freedom to kind of do my thing in my way is the mantra, I think, of many entrepreneurs. And of course that came with falling on my face quite a bit along the way. So yeah, that's like any other entrepreneur, there was the time when I was broke and living out of my trunk kind of thing. That's I think my story is much like everybody else's.
Well, I don't know any great entrepreneur hasn't been homeless at some point, right? Whether you're sitting out on someone's couch or using your trunk to get yourself ready to go to a meeting, right? And it's part of what builds character, I guess, on the one hand, but how does one not get identified when you're deep in it? Because it doesn't feel good, right? It's uncomfortable.
It's incredibly uncomfortable, and that's also where the magic and the growth happens. Nothing extraordinary happens within your own comfort zone. It's the ability to be outside of your comfort zone and comfortable enough in the uncomfortable to be able to navigate it, and even willing to actively work to stay out there in the uncomfortable. I think the tendency for a lot of us, and humans in general, like to be comfortable. I mean, physically, psychologically, it's our natural desire to be comfortable. So if you can focus on the big picture, if you can embrace the uncomfortability, then you can actually leverage it. And it's really, I don't know another way to do it. It's not often that I'll work in absolutes, but I haven't yet found a way to be comfortable and grow at the same time.
Well, I think that's one of those great philosophical questions. Is it possible? And I would agree with you 100% that it probably isn't. What I find, though, is that getting out of your comfort zone for me is that I have to be drop kicked, right? I don't go leaping towards the uncomfortable, testing my boundaries for tolerance. And so I found myself experiencing, two back-to-back Category 5 hurricanes as a small example. How might you help somebody get out there on those edges and stay there?
It is a question of risk tolerance, and I think this is very personal for anybody else. I think it was Nietzsche actually that had a very strange relationship to discomfort. He might call and say, hey, I heard your brother had a heart attack. That's fantastic, because he believed that it was only through the suffering that could we make any progress in our own personal evolution or whatever it is you're striving to achieve. So it's a willingness to deal with it and ask the question, okay, I acknowledge that I don't like this and it's not fun, it's not comfortable, and how can I leverage it? In my work and in this world, it's all about leverage. We don't look through the lenses of efficiency or even productivity. We look through the lens of leverage, and there is always a way to leverage things. If you look at the United States government, no matter what side of the aisle you happen to land on, they're really good at leveraging anything and everything because it, to their agenda in their way. So that becomes the question: is how can you do that in your business to, as you say, the Category 5 disasters that we're living in right now, for example. How can I take this and do something with it? There's always a way.
Well, and so, once you're in it, right? I mean, that's the thing. And I'm one of those people like you, where we take those experiences and we make something out of them. Even if we don't think we're doing it in the moment, you can look back and say, wow, look what I accomplished during or when. And, I look at the pandemic period right now and how productive and creative I've been, even in and around the discomfort of being in lockdowns and wearing masks and not seeing my friends and all the things that we are dealing with currently. But it's that, how do we get outside of our comfort zones when it's not a storm raging outside or a global pandemic or something else? I mean, is it possible to become somebody who doesn't have to be drop kicked, to be uncomfortable, to be able to make that change?
I would say that let's not exclude the beauty of ease and grace. If we could do something, if we
Wouldn't
could
that
do it
be
without
nice?
putting let's not grow weeds just so we could pull them. Right? So if there's a way to do it, just understand that I don't think you need to actively seek out discomfort. It's coming. If you're going to go after something, if you're going to achieve greatness, I can guarantee you the uncomfortability is headed your way. So, you don't need to create it.
I love that. Thank you for that. And what great advice for all of us, right? We don't have to go seeking,
tips.
It'll find us, right?
Gardening tips. Don't grow the weeds so you can pull them, right?
Absolutely. I'm with you. And it seems like, as a serial entrepreneur myself, it just is that way, right? It's the cyclical nature of the universe and how things go. And so we are going to experience it. We'll have the opportunities. There will be challenges, and we got to ride those waves, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So,
I would say you don't have to like it. There's an opportunity to trust in it, that it will catapult you forward.
that is so powerful. You don't have to like it, right? I mean, how many times do we have to remind ourselves it's not necessarily what I wanted? I don't have to love it, and I can make something of this. And so tell us about flow and what that looks like. If I'm assuming it relates, right? We're not pulling the weeds, we're getting into flow.
Right. Well, flow essentially is an optimal state of consciousness. This is what athletes call being in the zone, or you've heard the term runner's high. And this is all driven by neurochemistry. Okay, so you have chemicals in your brain, and when the cocktail is mixed just perfectly, you will access these flow states. And I'm sure I know you've experienced this. And most people have, where some of the characteristics of flow show up, where there's like time dilation. For example, when you were in college working on a midterm and it felt like 30 minutes went by, you looked up, it had been 3.5 hours, and you had this amazing piece of work product in front of you. That's essentially a low level flow state. And when we access these states, this is where all the creativity comes from, all of the innovation and all of the real performance. And through the lens of sports, again, no gold medal in the history of the Olympics was ever won without the winner being in a flow state. And this is true with most innovation.
Well, that's what we want, right? We want to be able to reach that. So, I mean, is it possible to succeed without a flow? I mean, in other
Well,
things besides Olympics and gold medals and, world championships.
I think absolutely you can succeed. It's just a question of what are you succeeding, right? When I look at through the lens of innovation, I don't know if you can really create true innovation without the flow state and the aha moments that come forward from flow states. You can certainly be successful and be an expert in something, but the entrepreneurs, the disruptors, the innovators, we don't follow the experts, right? The experts said if you drive faster than 60 miles an hour, your skin will actually peel off your face. That was like what we really thought. The experts believed that, right? And the experts thought that in order to heal mental illness, we had to drill a hole in your head and let the evil spirits out. The experts thought that, right? The experts thought that the Earth was the center of the solar system until Galileo showed up and said, not so much. And so it's not we, the innovators and the disruptors, that follow the experts. They follow us.
Well, thank God there are people like you out there leading, right? And I know I don't think of myself as that. I think of myself as somebody who's just doing what I'm inspired to do, and working with what comes. And so, is that a bit about flow? I mean, what does it feel like? How do we manifest it without having to, you know?
That's a great question. And you're right. Flow is an incredible feeling. It's what we call a very autotelic experience. Autotelic is the science word for addictive, because in the science community they don't like to use that word. So, but there's what we call the flow paradox, actually. As I said, when you were working on that thing you were working on when you were in a flow state, there was no you that was present, right? There was just the thing that you were working on. It's that sense of oneness. So there's this paradox. If I say, oh, I'm trying to get into flow, I want to get into flow, that in and of itself will keep me out of it, because there's an I in that statement, right? So it really is about removing the barriers to flow and putting what we call flow triggers in place. The same way you might build a family around a value system or an organized religion, you can build a team, an organization around flow triggers, and in doing so, flow becomes the result, the goal being building the triggers.
Wow, so you're talking about it in two different ways, if I'm hearing you correctly, both for ourselves individually, but also for our organization and our teams. Is that what I'm hearing?
You are correct. Great pickup. There's individual flow, where it's you and the thing that you're working on, and that's all there is. There's group flow, and you'll see jazz musicians, you'll see rap artists, any kind of music, really. You'll see in team sports, basketball players call it going unconscious, where they just know where each other are. Hockey players, the same kind of thing. So there's that group flow. Navy SEALs actually it's kind of like the way they operate. And then there's these